On-the-scene coverage of ACC 2015 is supported by Reardon.
I'm Peter Block for On the Scene here in San Diego at ACC 2015. With me is Mike Reardon. Mike needs no introduction. Mike was actually here last year when we talked about the one-year follow-up of the CoreValve transcatheter aortic valve replacement trial. Now we have, surprise, 2 years. So Mike, you have another year under your belt. The interesting thing about the first year was that there was a statistically significant difference in mortality in these high-risk patients, better with TAVR than in surgery. So where do you stand now at 2 years, Mike?
Well, because it was statistically superior at 1 year, which was the first time that had ever been seen in a head-to-head trial, you really need some long-term data to find out is this sustained durable. And it is, and in fact, not only is it a sustained durable at a two-tail log rank rate, but it actually widens between 1 year and 2 years. So we're actually seeing the curve separate more. So the superiority of TAVR seems to be increasing, which is another interesting finding.
Well, that's awesome, actually, particularly in these high-risk patients. These were all high-risk patients. These aren't STS3 patients, are they?
No, these are high-risk patients. They're all very carefully screened, both at a local and a national level, with a variety of markers outside the STS to ensure they really were high risk.
Okay, so this is CoreValve, and there's always questions about CoreValve that need to be answered as well, and now that you have some longer-term data. What about stroke?
Well, it's interesting because, we really were initially worried about stroke after Partner A of the early trial, but now that seems to have settled down. And in fact, in this, for all stroke, it's statistically less for TAVR than surgery, almost turned it on its head. There's no more major stroke. It's numerically less, 6.8 at 2 years versus 9.8 for surgery, but all stroke is actually statistically less. A very interesting finding moving us forward.
Okay, so those are all good news items. Yeah. What about bad news? There must be something that isn't terrific about this trial.
Well, I think there's the only thing that we see is what we've seen in the early generations is there is more PVL in these valves than there is in surgery. Now, I think you would probably agree with me that the engineering will work and we'll solve that as an issue, but I do think we have superior survival, we have superior stroke, we have superior major adverse cardiovascular and cerebral vascular events, again widening at 2 years, and we have superior hemodynamics at every point in the trial with no structural valve deterioration. All these, I think, are very good news for the field of TAVR and certainly good news for this particular device.
Okay, so there is the one issue that, of course, everybody knows about, and that's the teaching how people to do this exactly the right way, because the CoreValve is a little tricky about depth and exactly how high and how low and how many pacemakers you get if you put it too low and such. A comment on that from you.
Well, I think, Peter, we're all interested in where this field's going to go. And one thing we're interested in is, can we go to lower risk patients? And to do that, we're going to have to make this like my surgical valves. I can always put the right valve in the right place every time. If I miss, I'm standing there, I can take it out and replace it with another valve. What's going to change that and make it easier to teach people is going to be the recapturable, repositionable, redeployable valves, so that every time you should leave your lab with a valve you're completely satisfied with. I think that's going to be a real advance forward, and the engineering is there for that now.
So there it is, 2-year follow-up of the CoreValve trial. Lots of good news in this trial, and the mortality continues to be better with TAVR. That's certainly good news for patients that have transcatheter valves. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Peter.